Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk about all things homesteading, homemaking, and just our journey to a slower, more simple life. In today's video, I'm going to do something I'm really excited about and I haven't done before, and that is make homemade ice cream. And I'm going to do this without an ice cream machine, an ice cream making machine. That is something that I do hope to get in the future, but right now I don't have one and I want to make ice cream. You may think, why are you making ice cream when it is literally snowing outside? We think of ice cream as more, at least I do, as more of a warm season treat. But my fiance's birthday is coming up and he's not really a cake person, but he loves ice cream. So I'm going to make homemade vanilla ice cream as well as homemade brownie and probably some chocolate syrup to go on top. If you've ever had like those warm brownies with like ice cream on top and it's all melty, it is so good. So I'm really excited to eat it as well. Now, making the ice cream does take a couple of days for it to be ready, so don't try to start this the day that you need it. But what you're going to need is a big bowl that can be made of anything that is at least twice as big as a metal bowl. So I just have my metal pot, my stainless steel pot. You really want the inner bowl to be something like metal because it just makes the process work better. And for the ingredients of the ice cream, you're going to need heavy cream, milk, and in my case, because I'm making vanilla, you want some vanilla extract. And you can definitely do other flavors as well, but I'm just going to stick with good old vanilla. So I've had both of these bowls as well as the cream and milk in the freezer sitting for 10-15 minutes just to make it nice and cold. What I'm first going to want to do is fill this bowl with ice. So I'm going to get some ice. And I'm just going to start filling this bowl up. I have heard that using crushed ice could work better. I'm not really sure why that would be other than just making it easier to kind of put it around the metal bowl possibly. But I don't have crushed ice, so this should work fine. In some ways, it might actually kind of be in my favor that I'm making ice cream during the cold part of the year and on a cold day, and the kitchen is pretty cold, because the ice might not melt as fast, which will help in the process for sure. Okay, we got our bowl filled up with ice, and so now what I am going to do is add salt to the ice. You want to make sure you're adding your salt to the ice, not to the ice cream, because salt helps keep the ice from melting. I'm going to use both regular and coarse, but that just helps keep our ice from not just becoming cold water. That'll help keep it stable and help us do what we need to do during this process. This is what our bowl looks like, nice and full of ice and salt. And so we're gonna go ahead and just find a way to put that down in the middle and put that around the sides. So I think that is pretty good right there. So now we're gonna add the ingredients we need for our ice cream. And so this is gonna be 2 cups of our heavy cream, 1 cup of our milk, about 1 tablespoon vanilla extract, and 3/4 of a cup of just granulated sugar. We have everything in our bowl. Now I'm going to grab my hand mixer, and on the very lowest setting, I'm going to be beating this for probably 10 minutes. It is a long process from what I've heard, and of course you can do this by hand. People used to do it by hand. But if you have something like this, why not use it to just make the job easier? So let's get started with that. I should have probably only done half of that recipe for how small my little pot is, because it definitely overflowed into the ice, into the other bowl, but that's okay. It'll be okay. We have it. This is what it looks like at about 10 minutes of whipping it. It's kind of just light whipped cream kind of texture. I'm going to try to whip it for a little bit longer, but we want to keep an eye on if it's really, the ice is staying cold, and keeping it cold. The ice, I do feel, is starting to get kind of melty, so I'll probably just whip this for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to take some plastic wrap, put it over the whole thing, and I'm setting it in my deep freezer for overnight for 24 hours, and then we'll deal with it again. But let's give it a little bit more of a whip. So I'm gonna just put my plastic over the whole thing. And then this is going straight in the freezer for 24 hours. And then we'll see it again tomorrow. Hello. It is day 2, and I just got this out of the freezer. It has been a full 24 hours, and go ahead and look. That looks pretty good. So where we left it and put it in the freezer, it was closer to a whipped cream texture than an ice cream texture. But now that it's been frozen, we're going to go back in with our mixer, and we're going to mix it some more on the low setting while our ice is going to stay nice and frozen, and it should start to really look like what we think of as ice cream. So let's plug this in and go for it. Any bits that are kind of freezing on the sides, I'm going to go ahead and scrape off with a spoon. So once your ice cream is all whipped and looks like ice cream, and it's starting to get a little melty, we're going to want to put it into a container and put it in the freezer again. So I'm going to go ahead and scoop that in. And then once we get this all taken care of, then we can make the brownies and the chocolate sauce. I'm going to go ahead and kind of flatten it in this container, just to be kind of fancy for when we get to scoop it out later. And let's give it a quick taste test. That is like the best vanilla ice cream. Like, definitely some of the best ice cream I've ever had. That is so good. So pure, because it's just such simple ingredients. Oh, I'm so excited. Yes. So before this melts too much, let's throw it right in the freezer. So that was definitely a success. I will say some tips I learned since this is my first time is this was definitely too small. I wanted to make sure that the outer bowl, this is probably the biggest bowl that I have, was big enough to put the ice all the way around. But in doing so, I should have either lessened the recipe or gotten a bigger inner bowl, because I definitely kind of lost some of the ice cream along the way from it spewing everywhere. So keep that in mind. I'm not sure why that didn't really cross my mind, that things would fly around as I was mixing. And also, I think I said before, but you can definitely make different flavors. The one thing that I have heard is if we're going to be adding chunks of something, like I know people like to add cookies to ice cream or bits of fruit, you're going to want to mix it in during the second half of the process we just did. Flavorings like chocolate and stuff you should add at the beginning when we do the first mix, but anything that is like chunky you want to add the second mix. But I'm definitely planning to play around with this more, probably as we get into the warmer seasons too, because like I said, we love ice cream, and that really wasn't hard at all. Took a little time of whipping it, but really not that long, and a lot of it is just it sitting in the freezer and you being hands off. So until I'm able to buy a ice cream making machine, this is a very good go-to that I highly recommend. So I'm just gonna clean up this area here, and then we're gonna go over and make our brownies. So to start out with the brownies, I have 3/4 of a cup of butter melting in here. I'm gonna turn that down a little bit so that I don't burn it. But once that gets melted a little bit more, I'm gonna throw some chocolate chips in there, and I will be honest, I don't really know how many I throw in there. If I was to guess, maybe between 1/4 to 1/2 of a cup of chocolate chips. But basically we're just melting our chocolate in with our butter. So I'm going to start pouring some, just kind of mix it in. That looks good. And I'm just going to want to mix that up so that the chocolate melts nicely and nothing burns on the bottom of the pan. Then I add about a cup of sugar, which is less than most people add to brownies. These are semi-sweet chocolate chips, so there's already some sugar in there, and I really am not into super crazy sweetness. So for me, 1 cup is enough. If you're thinking of a more traditional brownie, it'd probably be closer to 2 cups, 1.5 maybe. But I'm adding the sugar next and getting that mixed in nicely. Once you're confident that that looks really good and distributed, we're going to do 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then we're going to mix in 3 eggs. And you definitely want to make sure that the heat is not too high. You shouldn't have to worry about the eggs cooking in this recipe. It's not a recipe that calls for you tempering the eggs, but I would just make sure the heat is not too high just to be safe. Really get those stirred in. And this is what it should look like, all stirred in nicely. Even though there's chocolate chips, we still add a little bit of cocoa powder. Like that much, just a little bit. And then it is 1 cup of flour. So we're gonna mix it as we slowly pour it in. There we go. I have the oven preheating to 350, by the way, so that will be all ready for us in just a little bit. You want to make sure to get all the flour mixed in. At this point, it is all mixed nicely. I have a pre-buttered dish to put this in, and I'm gonna go ahead. That nice pour. Lovely, lovely. And at this point, you can add things if you'd like. You can add more chocolate chips in it that aren't melted. I've added peanuts before. I'm allergic to tree nuts, but lots of people like different nuts in brownies. But you can do whatever you want, really. That's the beauty of homemade. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in the oven for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to check it. I check it by using a toothpick, and if it comes out clean, we know it is cooked through. And if it's wet and has stuff sticking to it, we will know it will need more time. But let's go ahead and throw this in and get that timer going. So since this is for a birthday celebration, I figured let's go all out, and I'm gonna make some chocolate sauce as well. I'm only gonna make a little bit, so I'm taking 1/2 cup of water with a cup of sugar, not quite a cup. It needs a lot. Chocolate sauces and stuff like that need a crazy amount. And I'm going to mix this together and let the sugar all dissolve. Once that sugar is dissolved nicely, I'm going to add 1/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. Mix that in nicely. And then we're gonna want to get this to a soft boil. Once we have this up to a boil, we're gonna let it boil for about 5 minutes. And then we're gonna take it off the heat and add half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So we're gonna take off the heat our half teaspoon vanilla extract. This should last in the fridge for like forever. So if you're somebody that maybe does have sundaes or desserts like this fairly frequently, or you could even add a little bit to chocolate milk. Like I said, in my opinion, it is quite sugary, but you definitely could use this for different things, to make chocolate coffee, to make chocolate milk, and over desserts, of course. So all that's left now is putting it all together and seeing how it turned out. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be really good. So let's go ahead and plate it up. This looks great. This looks like something you would get as a dessert in a restaurant. So let's go ahead and get a good bite. This is so good. Oh, I'm so excited. The brownie is so nice and fudgy. The ice cream just tastes such like a pure vanilla. And that chocolate syrup is a great touch. This is so good. I just want to completely go for it right here now. But this turned out really great, and it was not very hard at all to make. So if you are interested in a homemade dessert that feels special, because like I said, this feels like something you'd get if you were going out to like a fancy restaurant, definitely try making this. I think my fiance too is going to be very happy with it. But before I just eat this whole thing in front of you, thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing so you can join our community of like-minded folk. I've been posting a video every Monday, so keep an eye out for the next one. Make sure you subscribe so you can be here for it. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye!